So today we welcome Jessie Medina to the Convert with Confidence Summit. I'm super excited to speak with Jessie today. Jessie is the founder of FemX Quarters, transformational speaker, and a host of Hey Dreamer podcast. She's passionate about designing spaces for creativity, transformation, and growth. So Jessie, I want to welcome you to the Convert with Confidence Summit. And would you first tell the audience what inspires you to do the work that you do, and what motivated you to start your business?
Yeah, first off, thank you, Lydia, for having me here. I would say since I was a little kid, I was always inspired to help people. I was always that kid that knew that one day I was going to help people, but I didn't really know how until I was in my late 20s. So, quite a few times, little time went by, but I would say a lot of it had to do with knowing that I had this mission, and then thanks to life circumstances, getting the clarity to know what that mission was, right? And that is not always clear, straight path, and most people don't know it like right away, right? So for me, the clarity came from, again, that passion to help people, but also going through certain circumstances, such as in corporate America. I was in corporate America. I was doing pretty well. I was at an executive level at the time, and then they hired a new CEO that I reported to, and he started, harassing women sexually, and then I experienced it myself, and I became really passionate about like women and women rights, and I was thinking like, if I'm going through this and I'm empowered and I have money and I'm educated, all things, I can't imagine what all women are going through in bars, or who knows, they're single moms, they can't just quit their job. And this really made me passionate and made me to start learning about not just equality when it comes to women, but just in general, like just the things that people go through, right? Like trauma and healing. I started experiencing anxiety. So all these things, like I said, it's a bunch of circumstances that led me to care about these things. And I care so much that one day I was like, I'm just going to quit this job. And obviously there's a story to that, but I'm not going to get into it. But I'm going to quit this job. I'm going to move to my favorite city because I'm starting over anyway. So might as well start over fresh. And, I was like, I'm just going to host events for women. That's all I wanted at the time. Like I still had I started my business and agency because I was like, I have experience with this. I know I don't want to go back to corporate. And at the same time, I was like, I'm just going to host events to just encourage women, share how like you can get out of bad situations or how you can ask for a raise and all the things. And then the event started like selling out and growing, and my agency was doing okay. And then I was like, eventually I was kind of like, well, it feels like I'm supposed to do this, and it's mission driven and I love it. And this is kind of a stagnant, right? So again, it's like the life circumstances that guide you, and even the ones that seem bad or negative, it's like they're guiding you, right, to your purpose, your mission.
Yeah. I think that's, for those of you who are watching, maybe you're kind of unclear of what your purpose is. Mm-hmm. And I think there's only one way to really find out. And it's like, look back at what your specific struggles are, because you have something to teach, right? I think one of the biggest concerns this audience struggles with is like, who am I to coach, or what do I have to teach, or what makes me different from coach number 2, 3, or 4? And here's what it is, right? Like, how would you answer that question, Jessie? Like if a customer came to you, they're a coach, or maybe they're an aspiring coach, and they ask like, well, I don't know what my superpower is. I don't know what to teach.
You always go back to the things that make you unique. And many times it's going to be the little things that actually make you weird, or that you thought were weird about yourself, or that made you different. In my case, it's like a literal example where it's like, well, I'm a woman and there's this problem, and like, I know what it feels like, but it can be like the smallest things, because ultimately your ideal clients are going to resonate with you on a soul level. And a lot of these things come from these small details that many times we may have been othered by these things. We may have been bullied by some of these things. But your ideal people, your tribe, they're going to embrace those things. They're going to relate to you because of those things, right? And so it's understanding and embracing who you are fully. And the right people will come along that appreciate those things, but they are going to guide you. So instead of asking yourself, how can I fit in? How can I be like this amazing coach? Let me look at all these famous coaches out there and like model after them. I was so like, don't do that. Like go within, ask yourself, like, what makes me unique? There's already no out there. There's already Tony out there. Like there's already there, that spot is already taken. So it's like, how are you going to help people? What do you have to bring to the table that's different? And that's where you start. And you start finding out more about yourself, and you do all the things, right? Meditate. There's tests that I take all the time. I do all these things. Like the more I can get to know myself, the better for me, and the more clarity that I get.
Mm. Oh, wow. That you said that so well. And I love this. What we're doing here is we're moving our attention from outside, where I think we're like scrambling. Like, I love how you use the phrase to fit in. Like, yeah, how do I become this? And yeah, we actually can't. Notice it's actually impossible to become someone else if you really think about it. But all of these pieces of us that maybe we feel shamed about, like, I know my sense of humor is very, it's only going to resonate with some people. Like I sort of have a very dry, sarcastic, but it's useful with hypnosis. Like I do more provocative hypnosis, but it triggers the things that I need. And so those are the people who, when I say like this sort of dry sarcasm, they bust out laughing because they have an insight. And whereas in the past, I used to question, like, am I being too mean, or but it's like, in order to create change, we have to create emotional shifts in our prospects or our clients. And I love how you mentioned that our tribe will just resonate with us on a soul level. Like, it's not about using some magic copy. I know we're all scrambling out there for the perfect copy or for emails and events. And I love how this is really it. This is what really magnetizes your dream client, right? And I think a great way to maybe say it is like, our copy comes from our soul, right?
Well, listen, so when I was in corporate, I didn't mention, but I was in charge of PR and communications. Like that was my job for like 12 years, right? And I can still tell you that it's not just about that. I had huge budgets, huge teams, right? I did this for a living. I branded companies for a living, companies that have huge budgets. And I can still tell you that it always went back to speaking to that one person that needs exactly what you need. And another thing I've got to say about that is, with that copy is sometimes the copy's not working because we don't even know who we are. So we say all these things and it just doesn't come across right. It's like when you go to a party and you're like, something was off about that person. I don't know what it was. And maybe they were just awkward because they were nervous, who knows what. Maybe they had no bad intention, but because they were fully like embracing themselves, it kind of like lost that connection for them, right? And it's the same thing online. If you're not coming across, if you're not being yourself, it's going to come across as someone that people are not going to be magnetized by, even if they can't say why. Even if you have like the perfect copy, quote unquote, or like you have like all these buzzwords, doesn't matter. Now, if it's aligned to you, right, and you find this vocabulary, as you look within, you're going to start to speak your ideal client's language. And that's where the power is, where you can use that language that resonates with them because, oh my gosh, I went through the exact same thing, or like, that makes so much sense, or that's exactly how I feel. How does she know, right? That happens when you start embracing yourself, not trying to sound like somebody else.
Yeah, I can think of a few sales calls. And for those of you viewers watching, are you doing sales calls right now? Have you ever heard your prospects say something like, wow, one thing I often used to hear is, you're speaking my language. Like that was the exact thought that I had. And those were the easiest customers to sign up. Why? Not because of the magical words that I pulled out of thin air or the magical script I was using, but it's like, I love it, speaking their language, using that vocabulary from within inside of yourself. And I know we're all here because we really want to attract our ideal tribe or our ideal client. And Jesse, I know you talk about the importance of who we surround ourselves with and also how this affects us in business, right? So whether it's in business or, romantic or with friends, why is it important to consider who we are surrounding ourselves with, especially when it comes to attracting and magnetizing our dream clients?
Mhm. Yeah, this happens on an energetic level. It's not visible most of the time. And it really has to do with us. It starts with us. And I know I keep repeating that. So, we have this energetic vibration, right? And we don't see it visibly, but it really does attract the people into our lives, that whoever, right? Not just clients, but friends, anyone. And it's crazy how I've seen the progress when I look at my career, when I look at my entrepreneur life. I see this progress of like the type of people that I attracted, right? And I don't want anybody thinking like, oh, if I attract toxic people, it's because I'm toxic. It's not necessarily that, right? It could be like you're broken in some area that you need to heal, and that person is broken in that area too, right? It doesn't mean like there is no negative label to it. It's just understanding that we are all mirrors. And so saying, okay, what do I need to work on myself? Or why do I keep attracting these people? Like if you are feeling scarce and then you notice you keep attracting these clients that cannot pay you. And you're like, but why? But why? I'm so talented. I'm so experienced. I know what I'm doing. I know I can transform their life. And it's like, well, maybe you're attracting someone that's in that same vibration of like scarcity. Again, it's not negative. It's not to put a negative label. It's just like to really just be objective and say, what is it that I need to heal? If I'm only attracting people that maybe have that mindset, is there something that I need to heal in my own self to begin to attract people that are abundant? And I saw that in my journey because when I first moved to San Diego is an expensive city. And I was trying to start a business. And I thought it would be so easy with my experience. Like, oh my gosh, I'm just going to be so good at this. I don't even do the agency anymore because I realized it wasn't aligned. But at the time, right, I'm like, this is what I do. Again, this is what I've been doing for 12 years. So I was trying to push that. And, I pay the bills, but I wasn't thriving and I wasn't happy in it. And, I realized I was attracting people that eventually were my tribe, and they're not around anymore, right? But there was a lot that I had to heal because I still had this trauma that I had experienced. I still had this brokenness inside of me. I still had, some scarcity mindset in a way because I was like, oh my gosh, like it's really expensive to live here, and I'm just starting out, and it's not as easy as I thought. So all these things still attract like. And that's what's happening many times. So we have to ask ourselves, how are we operating? How are we thinking? What are we feeling most importantly, right? Because a lot of us will make affirmations and say things in our conscious level, but do we really feel that way, right? Do we really feel that we're abundant? Do we really feel that we're worthy? Sometimes it's not about money. Sometimes it's like, you say you're worth having great clients, but do you believe that yourself? Do you feel that way? Do you feel like what you have to offer is truly valuable? And I've worked with a lot of business owners that when we get to it, the deep root of it is like they actually don't feel worthy. They actually start saying things like, "Whoa, it's because I didn't go to school for this," or like, I didn't have like this many years of experience. And I'm like, "But you're so good at it." People that they have customers that love what they do, they will still have that imposter syndrome, right? Because they don't believe it. So you're going to attract more of that. You're going to attract people that maybe don't see your worth, people that maybe don't see your value. So the question is, do I see my worth? Do I see my value? And if you can start vibrating that confidence of knowing who you are, knowing what you have to bring to the table, knowing that you're an agent of change, and you really own that because that is the truth, then you'll be able to attract people that feel that. Even before you try to sell yourself, you try to say anything to them, they will just feel magnetized to you. And that's where like what we think of like the magic happens, right? Like it's not an overnight thing. It's like you've been healing for all these years, but it's like the moment you start owning who you are, it looks like this overnight shift in success, and like you're magnetizing all these opportunities. And I can speak from experience on that. And I can see it's like day and night. I know it didn't take one night to happen, but it's like once I have the mindset shift, so much started to change.
Such, I mean, I'm speechless what I just heard, because you packaged that so well, that I think oftentimes we're so clung to the right thing to say. What's the right thing to say? And one thing I noticed in my journey is once I had that insight, once that switch flipped for me as well, I didn't need a script. I didn't need to cling to some like magical questions that I thought would trigger something in my client. We can trigger things in people all day long. It doesn't mean they're going to invest in you. And I didn't, after that switch flipped, I didn't need, in fact, here's my really quick story here, is when I clung to the script is when everybody was saying, you're too expensive, I can't afford it, I have to think about it, I need to talk to my spouse. And the minute I was like, I'm so fed up with this freaking script, excuse my language, I got so fed up, I was like, I'm not doing this anymore. And I was like, you know what, why? First of all, I don't even know why are we even here? Like, I need to find out why we're on the phone before anything. And as soon as I found out the why, and you'll feel it, right? And I'm curious, Jessie, to get your insights on how to know when we've got their why. But I know for me, it's like, it was like a feeling. It was like, there it is. There's the pain. There's a shift. And that was when it was time to talk about my offer. But saying any numbers before that was completely useless.
So I want to say two things that are also really helpful that relate to what you just said. Number one, I feel like there's multiple levels, if you will, because everything is a journey and we're always on this journey of improvement and we never like just arrive, right? But there is like this journey that I've experienced where first, you may be in this stage where you're like, oh, I want to model after the experts and all the things because I want to make money, whatever, and it doesn't work, right? We talked about that. Mm-hmm. Then you get to the point where you're like, I'm doing my own script, I'm owning my own words, I'm doing my thing, and that's beautiful. And that's beautiful. And people will convert and people will be like, yes, I want to work with you. And then I'm going through this phase, which is a beautiful phase. I'm like, don't go away. Where if you're able to not just own your identity, but fight for it. I don't mean literally fight, but like you're so grounded in who you are that even if like the biggest gurus came to you personally and said, no, you need to change and this and this and this and this, but you're so confident in your identity and in your purpose and what you're supposed to do that you could even say no to that and any other temptation from maybe limited beliefs or whatever to like go back to that place where you didn't own yourself. When you become so confident that you are willing to fight for it, right? Not literally, please don't go fighting anybody, but like you're like, no, I will own this. I don't care how experienced you are. Like, I know who I am. I know what I'm supposed to offer. There is this magic that happens that I haven't been experiencing where it's like, I don't even try to sell. Like, I don't even go looking for opportunities anymore because the opportunities are coming to me. And it's people that are literally saying to me, I want to work with you. I want to hire you.
They're like raising their hand.
I want you to speak. Right. And I get to choose like, okay, I want to do this one. I don't want to do that one. But trust me that the temptations come all the time and people mean well. So many times it'll come from people that you love that are telling you like, you should do this, you should do this. Like I've had, a lot of well-meaning people throughout my journey saying like, oh, you're so good at this, or go back to the agency, you're so good at branding, whatever, right? So it's like, when you're willing to say like, no, like I'm in the business of transforming lives. This is what I want to do. This is the work that I want to do. This is how I want to make an impact. I want to create spaces, all the things that I do. It's like when I own that, that's when like the opportunities come. But it's counterintuitive because we think with our brain that, hey, if I do that, opportunities are going to go away, right? Or if I'm not actively looking, I'm not going to find anything. But it's so crazy how the moment that you decide to surrender, because that really is what it's about, and you decide to trust yourself, trust in the universe, trust that, that whatever is yours, that's when opportunities will literally knock on your door. And I think that's the best season. And again, it's not something permanent. That's why I'm like, I hope it stays for a while, because I'm sure that, you know, throughout my life, things may come, or seasons where like I may not be as confident, whatnot. But I can attest to the fact that when you are in those seasons and when you decide to surrender, the opportunities will come. Now, I want to say one more thing about this, because I'm very passionate about it, and I love that you brought it up. So the other thing about this is, you know, I love human design. I don't know if you're familiar with human design, but I love human design. And I love human design because it explores who you are. It helps you explore who you are, right? Instead of telling you what to do, it's like explore who you are, understand yourself, and understand what works for you. So it's more personalized. So for anyone listening, check it out. It's free. You can do it online, myhumandesign.com. And then you can just Google the results to understand it better if you like, or you can get a coach, whatnot. I have a human design coach because I love it, and it's still helping my business. It's literally the reason why I am so confident now in my path. And the thing about human design, I'm going to say something briefly, is that different people are meant to respond to opportunities different ways. So whereas maybe I am someone who, in my case, I just get to respond to opportunities. So if I go looking for it, if I go pitching myself, usually it doesn't work, which would cause me to be frustrated. So the very thing that the, you know, traditional advice says, like, go put yourself out there, this and that, it's like, oh, but if I did that, it would literally not work for me. And then I would question myself, like, what's so wrong with me that I'm doing all the things and it's not working, right? But I have come to understand, and thankfully I always intuitively understood this about myself, because I was never that person that was like pushing something. But you know, like some people don't know, and then when they learn it, they're like, oh my gosh, like this is exactly why. And then the moment that we just get to respond, it just flows. Now there's people that are meant to invite, right? There are people that are meant to receive an invitation. So there's different types. And so if you can learn your type as well and honor that, it's powerful. It's been really powerful for me. And again, it's just another tool, right? For me, it's all about integrating the different tools, integrating different practices so that we can get to know ourselves better.
Yeah. I think what I'm really hearing here is like, it's really just about like creating that bridge is important, and how you get in front of your prospect. But once that's happened, it's really it just comes down to you being your authentic self and not putting out this, because think about it, you put out a different vibration when you're authentic versus when you're trying. Like trying energy is what I've seen push people away. And this, how can I get, I hate this phrase, but how can I get people to do X? How can I get clients to do X? Because reality is we can't control people. We cannot get people to sign. We cannot even get customers to see our value. Mm-hmm. Like how powerful is that? We cannot get people to do anything. But what we can do is present ourselves. It's like dating, right? We can present ourselves, and we can admit whatever energy, we can say whatever feels natural, but whether they can see it or not is going to really come from their own limitations.
Yeah. Okay. And that's why we had to release that need to control. We had to surrender, right? And trust. So when you say, hey, if it didn't work out, it wasn't meant to be, that's trusting, you know? And again, I love that you said putting ourselves out there, because we do have to put ourselves out there. Just because I don't have to be pitching myself, it doesn't mean I don't have to put myself out there, right? I still create content. I still, do what I love, and I recap like my events and whatnot, right? So like, I'm just like putting myself out there, right? People know I exist, in other words, but then like I get these opportunities. But yeah, I cannot be mistaken by like, oh, I'm just gonna hide in my room and like, people are just gonna, right? Like there's a difference. There is work to be done, but it's a different type of work. It's a work of like, hey, I'm just showing up my full self, and my tribe will be attracted to me. My friends that are meant to be my friends will be attracted to me. And that's what it is. We still do have to, I don't know, like some people have these things about social media that I've talked to people that are like, well, I don't know, I just don't really care for social media. And I'm like, well, this is how you can like put yourself out there nowadays, like, right? Like this is how people will see you, but show up as yourself, show up authentically. Don't try to be like other people, but show up. You still have to show up, right?
Yeah, I think there's fear around showing up, and maybe viewers can resonate with this. There's fear in showing up because you're so attached to the outcome. It's like, oh, if I show up on video, if I do a Facebook Live, if I put out an email, I have to get this response. I have to get a like, I have to get this kind of interaction. I need to get someone to buy. And then when we don't get that, and I've seen this in myself, it's like I take my foot off the gas. And then I'm right back to where I started. And then I wonder why I'm in this cycle. And can you guys resonate? Like, you put your foot on the gas and then you take it off, and then you put it on, and then you don't get the response you want, and then you take it off, and you wonder why you're not building momentum with your whatever it is you're trying to do, whether it's like a sales funnel or build engagement in your Facebook group or through your email list. And it's just this, Jessie, is there like one tip or strategy you can give this audience so that they can begin to shift out of this energy? Let's say they're like, okay, I'm right now, I'm in this trying energy. I'm like, I have this perfect sales script. I'm seeing a few clients, but they're mirroring back my own money objections, right? Or money fears, time fears, and objections. Is there maybe like one tip or strategy that can start to move them in the right direction?
Well, I gotta say you have to go within. And I know people like the specific tactic, like tell me to write something or tell me, but like honestly, it happens on the spiritual level. So if you can even like lay down, start meditating and go back to, ask yourself, like create a prompt where it's like, when was the first time I created this limitation or this life, if that's the case, right? Or where did I tell myself that, there's no ideal clients for me, or that like people don't like my message? Because that's the other thing, right? We create this story of like, I'm not saying it didn't happen. Let's say that you've gotten on so many calls and like people are like, oh no, this doesn't work for me. This doesn't work for me. So we create this story of like, oh, well, people don't see my value. People don't want to pay me. And then we actually create this story that perpetuates that story, right? So it's kind of like asking yourself, when did I first believe that? And if you do hypnosis, I'm sure you're way better at this, but it's kind of like finding that moment and then shifting from that moment and saying, I'm going to trust that, my people are out there. I just haven't talked to them yet, right? I'm going to trust that there's people that are going to see my value. I'm going to trust they're already here, believing and trusting that they're already here. They just haven't seen us because we've been hiding, trying to be somebody else.
We don't have their attention.
Right. They're literally all around us. It's crazy when I saw the shift. So again, living in the same town, everything. When I saw a shift in my life, it's like all these people that were around me that I had never met, but they knew who I was, all of a sudden wanted to work with me. And they knew who I was. Some people, oh yeah, I've been following you for 2 years. I've been following you for 3 years. And I'm like, I never even saw a comment from them before, right? It's like, really? But it's like all of a sudden they have this interest, right? Well, that's when you're in alignment, right? That's when maybe they still feel like there was something like, I like her, I'm gonna follow her, but like, I'm not sure yet. It had to do with me. It had to do with me embracing, looking back, right? I know now that I wasn't fully embracing all of me back then. And so you have to go back and do this. You can also journal, and I like to journal because a lot of things come up that sometimes I'm not aware of when I'm journaling. And then also journal the affirmations, the things that you want to make a reality, believing, right? So like write how much money you're making and write it in present tense, right? Write down like who your clients are, write down. And I know we've been told this, but when you truly put that intention behind, it makes such a big difference. So yes, I could tell you like, many strategies, but I always tell people this, business owners especially, all these business strategies are standard, right? So I could tell you business strategies and it works for some people and it doesn't work for others, because really it's about you and like your intentions, your beliefs, your disposition. One more thing that you said that's really important that I want to expand a little bit on is the fact that you said, how you're showing up when you're doing those sales. If you're showing up thinking like, I need this money, it's just not gonna work out. If you show up thinking like, I don't need this money, I have everything that I need and I get to work with my ideal clients. So if this person's my ideal client, great, it's gonna work out. If not, that's okay. I'm taken care of already. when you have that energy behind the action, it makes such a big difference. One is scarcity and one is abundance, right? You're not showing up. I don't go anywhere thinking I'm going to go there because I need money. I do not give a single speech thinking I'm here because I want to get clients, because I want to get money. No, it's like the question, the prompt before my speech is like, how can I transform even one life today? Like, please give me the inspiration. Please give me whatever needs to be said. And then I will literally do a celebration dance, get in the mood, and then go out there and like with the true intention to serve and just trusting in the abundance that already exists for me. So that's when you make the shift. I would say that's the most important thing, even though I know it's not as tangible at first, but I promise you for listening that if you really do it from within, nobody can see it, only you can feel it. So if you feel that abundance and if you know and you trust that your people are out here already, it makes such a big difference.
Yeah, it was beautiful. It's beautiful. Said like, go back and rewatch this whole interview, because this is stuff you may never hear again. Like, I'm going to be honest, this stuff, that these experts and what Jessie is sharing today, you may never hear this again. If you're out there and you're scrambling around, you're getting like, here's this, maybe you have all the processes, you have the script, you have the funnel, you have the Facebook group, you may even have the audience in front of you, but nobody's taking action. Then I know this was the piece I needed to fill in. And I remember when that switch flipped, immediately I was closing what we may call high ticket or high premium customers. But it was because, well, first of all, I was fed up with myself. I was like fed up with my own processes. And I was like, you know what, I'm going to do things my way. And boom, 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 people were coming like crazy. And then naturally the people who were the older customers I used to bring on, the ones who were struggling to make payments, who were like, I can't afford it. I don't have the time. I felt them come, and then I felt them go. But it was like, oh, it feels good to let them go now, because we're not ready for each other. There's another step they need to take, and to just be in that flow, be in the trust. Just, I love you use that word. And I know some people may be asking, how can I start to trust? Well, I know for me, it was just about just being relaxed, like to stop trying, to stop doing, to stop manipulating myself, and to start just like getting really present, I think is also part of it. Getting out of the future, getting out of the past of, what's been going on or what hasn't happened, and really being in the present, because it's really all we have control over. And I know, Jessie, you have a free gift for this audience that I'm sure I'm already excited to hear more about. So would you mind sharing that with us here today and where they can go to get it?
Yeah, so it's finding alignment, right? Because for me, it's interesting. Again, this is a perfect example of the whole everything is meant to be everything you've been through. So like, I learned how to get brands really clear in their message on like the business brand, arena. And then eventually I learned how to do this spiritually and how to gain this clarity. And so for me, it's crazy because I see how everything is tied in, how everything works together, everything in my experience, in my journey. And so it's incorporating steps from like what works in business, and also incorporating this spiritual concepts of like, okay, how can I find that clarity? How can I go within? How can I learn more about myself? And I've integrated both to bring, and I know that I'm privileged to know that stuff, and that helped me gain clarity faster. So this is something that I do want to share with people, and I share with everybody that I've worked with.
Yeah, awesome. So if you're in a place where you have the processes, maybe you've been in business for a while and it's just, you're not connecting with your dream client, what's the next step? Is to connect to yourself, right? Is to find out who is your dream client. Maybe you don't even know, because I think we hear dream client and then immediately we're like, yes, I want my dream client, but who is that? Where are they in their struggle? What are their struggles, right? Because
and it's not just about the money either, because a lot of people say, oh, I just want someone that makes this much money or wants to pay me this much. And sometimes they can be the hardest people to work with, right? So you have to get clear on like, I want to feel this way when I work with them. I want them to be transformed. I want there to be growth, like whatever your intention is, right? Like it has to be the people that will truly get results from you too.
Yeah.
So you gain that clarity as you do these things. So
yeah, these are all important points. Yeah, I mean, I think in the end, we all want more income in our businesses and more freedom, but that doesn't come without you growing in some way. It's just something, it's just the inner work that we need to do. And it's not just about, changing. I know I sometimes I'll spend forever changing my language on a button,
Right.
click now, click to grab. And I'll be like, wait a minute. I think they get it. Whoever this is already resonating with, the button's fine. And coming from that place, like the work is done. Like it's fine. It's just about you continuing to show up and not having that, your foot on the gas and your foot on the brake at the same time, or even making yourself wrong for your past. I think one of the most powerful things I've done is just share stories on sales conversations, like stories of past clients. My own story is a huge, telling people, like, I went from a people pleaser to like a coach who, can show up with authority. It's just magical when you can connect with a client without having to get them to do anything. So scroll to the bottom of this page, click the link to go grab Jessie's gift right now. This link is only available for the next 48 hours. So if you're ready to get into alignment, you want to discover who you are, who you need to show up as, which is yourself, go click the link, grab this free gift. And Jessie, thank you so much for such a powerful conversation here today at the summit.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure.